Hi everyone, welcome to CLO 7.0 webinar. This is Haley from Hong Kong team and I will be walking you through these new features that we have developed for CLO 7.0. If you have any questions, please leave your questions in the live chat room and we will answering them with you all. Here are the contents that we will cover in this webinar, which are key features, 2D, 3D, modes, materials, render, and user interface improvement. So let's start with the key features. The first new feature I'd like to introduce is a good news for users who use Mac equipped with Apple Silicon. Finally, starting with CLO 7.0, CLO runs natively on Apple Silicon as well. When using previous CLO versions on Mac equipped with Apple Silicon, you must have felt that the basic operation was a bit slowed from the start of the program execution. With this release of CLO 7.0, overall we have improved beyond of the performance of CLO, which used to run on Mac with Intel built-in. While using a Mac equipped with Apple Silicon, there may still be parts that are not satisfied with the speed. However, we are currently continuing to study the optimization of CLO on Apple Silicon, so please look forward to seeing CLO returning with their improved performance. The next one will be Pantone API. In CLO 7.0, we have linked Pantone into CLO so we can make sure users can use the most updated materials and Pantone color. You will be able to access the Pantone library through the CLO software. By going into the color window, we can follow the step as before by selecting the fabric, trims, graphic or avatar, and then access the property editor and you can select the color chips and the color window. So when you move to Pantone page, you will see this information icon. This explains that these colors may not match the Pantone identified standards. But you can also see a new tab labeled, which is related to the Pantone. So you can have these options like FHI polyester TSX, FHI cotton TZX, and FHI nylon brights TN, which were the tab 1, 2, and 3 in the previous color window. You will have different viewing options like this chips icon, list options with name, and column options with names. You can also change the size of the color chips displays to see more color chips or less color chips. When you click the display icon again, you can see the original chips display and you can also search the according to Pantone numbers to find the corresponding Pantone chips. Besides, when you have a color, when you click on it and search it, you can also to find a similar color like the Pantone color and also YKK global colors for your needs. And now we can have a quick tour on Pantone library in CLO. And you can also choose your own color and preview in the 3D and 2D window. In CLO 7.0, we are having parametric pattern feature to help designers and pattern makers creating their pattern blocks in a much easier way. This feature is located in the Editor tab, and you can click Editor, then move to Parametric Pattern. The Parametric Pattern Editor will be appeared, and you can put your measurements to create the body pattern like front, back, and sleeves. The front and back pattern pieces provide options with symmetry or half symmetry. If you check the symmetry option, both sides of the pattern will be generated and they will be symmetric linked. If you check the half symmetry option, CLO will create a full pattern with a sand line to identify the symmetric relationships on your garment. If you don't check any option, only one side of the pattern will be created. To generate the sleeve, you need to click the On option. By this way, only one side of the sleeve will be created. If you want to create both sides of the sleeve, you need to check the symmetric box. The measurement that we will insert can be found in a spec sheet or by measuring a garment as reference. At the bottom left corner, you can find the Reset button. It will redefine the measurement to the default values. Then we will start by inputting the measurements for the body front pattern. The first measurement will determine the length of your pattern pieces, and you can decide between measuring it from the height point shoulder or the center front. I will insert 540 mm from the height point shoulder. Next, we have the neck opening, which is the distance between the high point shoulder in a straight line, and I will use 190 mm. For neck drop, you can measure it down from the center of the imaginary line between the high point shoulder to the joint seam at center front. In my case, this sentence is 70 mm. Across shoulder is the distance between the two shoulder points, and I will use 390 mm. For shoulders loop or shoulders drop, it is the strict distance between high point shoulder. Down to the shoulder or armhole point, it will be 40 mm. The across front can be measured according to 4, 5 or 6 inches below the high point shoulder. In this case, it is 360 mm, 4 inches below the height point shoulder. The across bust or chest can be measured from armhole to armhole, or 1 inch from the armhole. We can also check the total option to insert the total circumference of the bust. If I do like this, the same option for the back will become inactivated, and the value I insert will be divided between front and back. If I want to create a shirt with a total numbers of 840 mm for the bust, so I will leave the total option on, and I will insert this value directly. For the armhole length, we can measure from the shoulder point straight down to the armhole or side seam intersection. The value is about 170 mm. The last one is the hem strap. Here I also have the option to insert the total measure, including front and back. So I will click the checkbox and type 840 mm for the hem. And now I will start inputting the body back pattern values. For the back length, I put the same values at the front panel, which is 550 mm from the high point shoulder. And then, for the neck opening, I will use 200 mm. The neck drop of the back pattern will be 30 mm. For the across shoulder distance, I need 410 mm. The shoulders loop or drop will be the same that I'm using for the front, which is 40 mm. The across back can be measured like 4, 5 or 6 inches below the height point shoulder. In this case, it is 380 mm, 4 inches below the height point shoulder. And then, the across bust or chest option is inactive because I insert the total value for the chest measurement before. For the armhole length, I will use 200 mm. And at last, the hem sweep is also inactivated because I already insert the values before. And then we can move to the body sleeve. For the sleeve measurements, the length refers to the distance between the highest point of the sleeve to the sleeve opening. And I will do a short sleeve design, so I can use 160 mm. The cap height is the distance between the highest point of the cap to the armhole line. In this case, it is 95 mm. The cap width is measured 3 inches below the highest point of the sleeve. I will use 245 mm. For the bicep width, you can measure it from armhole to armhole, or 1 inch down from the armhole. In this example, I'm using 340 mm with armhole to armhole option. Finally, for the sleeve opening, the values will be 300 mm. Before creating the patterns, I will check the symmetry options for the sleeves, front and back patterns, and now I can click Create to see the outcome. Afterwards, we can now start modifying the patterns in order to create my final garments and for the future development. Next, we can talk about the grading improvement in 7.0. In the 2D window, you can select 2D pattern display and show grading. Then you can check the grading information in the 2D pattern window. When clicking Edit Grading Tools, you can check the information of the grading in the 2D pattern window. You can also click the lines and point to see the details in the property editor. When clicking the grading point, you can also see the general information in the property editor. When there are overlapping points, you can use Edit Grading Edge to check the points, and there will have a pop-up menu. You can select one of the points, just like to check the overlapping top stitches and overlapping internal lines. And I will just select a point and do further editing. So here is an example. When I would like to do some moving, I can directly to move the distance by my keyboard. When I press Shift on the keyboard, there are the guidelines of X, Y, and 45-degree axis when you move the point. You can move the point in a particular directions, like horizontally, vertically, and diagonally. When you press Ctrl on the keyboard, there are guidelines of the extensions of the select point when you move the point. You can move the point along the axis of the extension. And we can still using the Edit Grading Edge tool to select and move the point. And then, right-click at the same time. The Moving Distance dialog will appear. It allows us to put the distance to move the point of each size. So we don't need to only rely on the arrow key movement in the property editor, but we can have a more flexibility to grade patterns now. And I will show you about a grading examples with moving distance dialog. So I will put 40 mm with this point, and then I will select another overlap point, do the distance moving. So I will put 40 mm as well. And for the last point, I will put 80 mm. So you can see there is a even distance moving of different gradings. So we can not only focus on one part, we can also select the point maybe on the center front to do further changings of the grading, like using the moving distance dialog to apply the certain value, and then to change the point one by our mouse. So we can not only use the previous arrow method to do this kind of grading movement, but also use the mouse and the moving distance dialog for help. If you prefer using the keyboard to do the grading adjustment, you can still use it and use your keyboard, the directions key, to change those grading. So here is the result of the grading. And now you can use this kind of grading improvement on your garment in CLO 7.0. After that, I would like to introduce a new function of importing DXF, as the pattern export direction affects the grain direction value in CLO. When importing the DXF file, we can now reset the grain direction value in the menu. There are three options: maintain original, 270 to 0 and 90 to 0. Maintain original means to keep the original grain direction, like what we are currently using. In some of the 2D CADs, the pattern placement is horizontal. When user export the DXF from 2D CAD, then import back to CLO, then the grain direction value will be changed to 270 or 90 degrees automatically. If you want to reset the grain direction value as 0, you can apply the options 270 to 0 or 90 to 0, depends on your needs. Then the values will be reset to 0. Please note that this function only changes the grain direction value. The grain direction arrow won't be affected. And then I will introduce another new features of using grain line. When we confirm whether certain arcs on the pattern are around, like the armhole, we often need to rotate the pattern. And now, we can use this new function to reset the pattern placement angle. Just need to right-click on the pattern and then select Rotate Reset Along Grain Direction. Then, we can move the pattern to the original place. After you have created grading information in CLO, now you can save it with a rule file. Just need to go to the menu bar and then click File, Export, DXF, and save with a name in a folder. Then the Export DXF window will appear. You can select the DXF format that you need. There are two options with the size format. You can choose the second one, Rule File. And now you can see there is a DXF and RUL file in the folder. When I switch to another garment file and import the RUL file, you will see the grading information will be successfully applied on the garment. The POM tool was also improved, so now you can import CSV files containing the list of your points of measurement. By using this way, you don't need to rename them every time. In order to create my CSV file, I can click on the POM tab in my object browser, and then I can start typing some of the points of measurement that I often use in my garment, just like the center front, center back, sleeve opening, and also the sleeve cap. Please note that you can also change the POM number as a reference code that you may use in your internal team or your company. Once it is finished, we can click the Save icon and name it accordingly. To apply these names, I use this file as an example. Here you can see I already got some POMs, yet they are not renamed. I will click the folder icon and import the CSV file that I just created. And now, I have all of the points that I would like to measure. I can either apply the name to an existing POM or assign it to a new one. The first point from this file is the center front. I will select it and then click the Assign button. I can also select the POM with the Edit POM tool and then select the Assign button. And I will also work on another point of measure like the center back. So you can see now center front and center back will have the point of measure. In order to add a new measurement, we can select the name with the POM tool and create the new measurement. In case you have a curved segment, you can select the name and then use the trace tool to select the curve. After that, right-click and select Trace as point of measure. Please note that this measurement is now added. To delete the previous point of measure, we can just click the delete icon, and then the point of measure will be removed. In the new version 7.0, the button flat lines will be also marked in the schematic render. You can turn on the schematic render in the 3D window and check the button lines and the button. To change the thickness of the lines, you can always change the value of the seam line, and it is also possible to change the line color. And when you select the color chips, you can also preview the color changing in the 3D window immediately. If you want to mark the specific flat line, you can go to the Button tab from the Object Browser and then select the button style. After that, you can move to Property Editor and click on the thread and uncheck the box of using the same materials as button. Finally, you can change the color of the flag to black or the color you choose in the schematic render. In the 3D window, you can now move your avatar and garment at the same time. You just need to right-click on the avatar from the 3D window, then select from the drop-down menu, select Avatar and Garment, and then you can use the gizmo tool to move the outfit and the avatar in different directions in your 3D space at the same time. In the latest CLO version, you will notice that the coloring mode is no longer available in the drop-down menu from the top right corner. The coloring mode has been added under this editor drop-down menu. This way will allow you to do multitasking between the multiple windows, just like the 2D pattern window, coloring windows, render window, and BOM windows, etc. Additionally, you will have the access to all the same 3D tools you have access to in the simulation mode, so you can switch to different windows to do the further editing. And now we can switch to coloring editor easier from the bottom tabs and check all kinds of coloring details. We also have further improvements in the coloring window, like the ability to delete the graphics, trims, top stitch, and trims. To delete any kind of these items, all you need to do is to right-click on the thumbnail and then select Delete. Another feature is you can now drag and drop the fabric file to the fabric box in the coloring editor. Previously, this was not possible. You could only drag and drop the fabric file to the object browser, and it would all reset the property editor of the fabric. And these new features allowed us to change the appearance of the fabric only, like the texture and the mappings of the select coloring, and it would not affect the physical or shaped appearance of any kind of the coloring. In print layout mode, you can move your cursor to the 2D pattern display icon at the top left corner, and then you will see Show Grading icon is added. When turning on the Show Grading, you can review the grading details of the patterns. After that, you can refer to the grading information for the pattern arrangement and pattern nesting. In version 7.0, you can see the nesting results in real time. Let's nest patterns for 3 garments in a two-way grain direction. After clicking Nest Patterns, the system will start to calculate nesting result continuously, and then display the ultimate nesting result. If you pause the nesting, the laid-out results will show that what you are currently seeing. As the calculations goes on, the results are almost unchanged nearly the final stage, which means the continuous calculation, what you see is the most suitable solution. Therefore, you can pause the nesting in advance. In the latest versions of CLO, you will notice the BOM mode is no longer available in the drop-down menu from the top right corner. To access the BOM editor, you can now go to the newly added menu, Editor, and then select BOM. Here you can find a new tab for BOM editor within the 2D windows. You will be able to switch between 2D window and the BOM editor, and then to do the multiple tasks. Another addition in the BOM editor is a tooltip near the fabric section. If you hover your mouse on the icon, you will find the following message. This is a reminder for you to make sure to nest the patterns in print layout mode first if you want to calculate the estimated cost of the fabric. In our case, since we have not nested the pattern, the cost of the fabric shown here is according to the default arrangement. For nesting, let's go to the print layout mode and quickly nest just the trousers patterns. And now, if we go back to the BOM editor, you will be able to see the costing according to the nest result. Make sure to click on the Update button to see the changes in the BOM editor. In CLO 7.0, we have updated our stretch test reminder symbols from the emulator. So now you can see here is an example of the grade information symbol and the red warning symbol. The grade information symbol is created for very high stretch fabric testing, when the force difference is equal to 0.005 kgf. Grade information symbol will show and mention the data is counted as very high stretch fabric. And when you see there is a red warning symbol, which means the force difference is less than 0.02 kgf, which could not fit our testing rules for the low stretch or high stretch fabric. And then you will see the warning symbol and point out the difference. In this case, you need to check the record and enter the valid data. We are happy to announce that in version 7.0, we have improved the zipper tooth. From now on, the zipper teeth and the tape can have its material and size customized individually. For now, I have 4 zippers and I will change the zipper teeth and the zipper tape colors separately for an easier recognitions. And also, you can preview the color changing in the 3D window immediately. And then, by clicking on the zipper, you can check its texture in Property Editor. And now, we have a section for the teeth and another for tab. Let's start by changing the tape's texture. In Property Editor, you can add a different texture and mapping for the zipper tape, and I will go with metal now. Next, I will do the same thing for the zipper teeth and change its texture accordingly. Besides, we can change the zipper teeth and zipper tape color separately for your own design and doing different mix and match on your garments. On the left hand side, you can see there are different mappings like the texture map, normal map, displacement map, and this is also combined with different materials like the plastic, nylon, and metal. So we can apply this texture on the zipper teeth and also the zipper tape, and also change the materials type based on your needs. And now you can find these all kind of presets from CLO 7.0. We will now go through the new improvement in the binding feature. First, let's apply a binding on the leg line by clicking on the starting point of the pattern, and I will double-click on the end point to finish the binding. Please make sure to simulate to update the status in the 3D window. We can wait for a while to make the garment stable before stopping the simulation. And I will temporarily hide the avatar to show the binding from the inner part of the garment. If you move to the binding types in binding properties, you will find there is a new options, both. In the previous versions, we can only apply the binding on either under the garment or over the garment. In the latest update, we are able to apply the binding on the both sides of the garment. After changing the binding type, please always make sure to simulate the garments to update the status and ensure the stability. And you will be able to change to the other properties like the weave, grain direction, as well as assign a new fabric to the binding that you have applied. If you want to assign a new fabric, please add it to the fabric under Object Browser. Another improvement of the binding features is now we are able to create the binding on the seam lines. And we will see how to create a binding on the shoulder seam right now. After applying the binding, you will be asked to select side to create the binding. Please move your mouse to the side that you would like to add a binding and click to proceed. And I will change back to select and move to hide the avatar so we can check the inner part of the garment and the binding details. And then you will see the binding has been applied on the seam line. You can turn on Simulate to update the garment and binding status in the 3D window. You can also change the binding fabric and also other properties as previously mentioned. Then, the binding for the seam line will be done. Within 7.0 version, we can set the order of the overlapping top stitch in the 2D pattern window. In the previous version, the top stitch order was shown according to when the top stitch was created. And now, in this new version, we can change the order by ourselves. And I'm going to show it. When you look at the 2D window, the side of the bed has a zigzag stitch and two line stitch at the same time. Currently, you can see the white zigzag stitch is placed at the top, and if I want to change the order in the 2D window, I can select the top stitch, and then it will be highlighted in pink. When we right-click on it, there is a options order at the bottom, and you will see another 4 options on the next. The first one, bring forward, means to move the top with one level only, and then the second one, bring to front, is to move the top stitch to the top. The third one is send backward, which means to send your top stitch one level behind of current position. And the last one is send to back, which means to move the top stitch to the bottom of all top stitch. So now, you can according to these options and then change the top stitch order in the 2D window. And I will give you a demo. So now I select the white zigzag stitch and apply send to back. When I check it in the 2D window again, you will find the zigzag stitch is sent to the bottom, and also it is placed behind of the yellowed double stitch. Furthermore, I will cover the trims update in 7.0. So now we can convert the patterns to trims directly from the 3D window. Here is an example, and I will use pattern to make the barcode on the strap. In the past, we need to export the barcode as a OBJ file and then import it to cloth as a trims again. And now, the step becomes more simple and more convenient. We can right-click it on the 3D window, and there is a new options, Convert to Trims, and let's apply it. Then the pattern will be converted to trim. After that, we can see the tooth icon, clearly the gizmo has been changed. And then, we can use the glue tooth to stick it on the strap and adjust the position to make it become more natural. You can also apply the texture on the pattern and convert it to trims. Or if you would like to do further decoration, you can also use the Unified Fabric Map. It will ensure that the texture position of the pattern will keep the original size and original placement after converting. As the same progress as the barcode, I will right-click on the pattern and select Convert to Trims. And then I will adjust the weight and glue to the dress. The weight of the trim will be recalculated, so you need to check the weight and apply it appropriately. And if you would like to apply it like the barcode on another side, you just need to apply duplicate to symmetric patterns, and then the barcode will be cloned to another side, which help you to save the time, and you can just need to do some fine-tunings, like the position fine-tunes. In 7.0, we are able to copy the trims and then do mirror place. And when we click on the garments again, the trims will be automatically stick on the patterns with a mirror position. In the new version, it is possible to add buttons and buttonholes along an internal line. Here is a dress, and I will first apply the buttons on the center. And then, we can use the button tooth and apply right-click on the internal line for making the first button. And then you will find a pop-up window to decide the details. There are two different types, based on start and distribute. For based on start, you can take the first button as a base and then to decide the following buttons. And for distribute, these options allowed us to decide the range where we want to distribute the buttons. And for the distance, which means to move the buttons along right to left. And interval allowed us to move the buttons along up and down. For each options, there is a reverse as well. You can just check it if needed. You can use another design method by setting the numbers of buttons, and the interval between the buttons will be calculated automatically. At the meantime, we can also change the button style like the width, thickness, weight, and also to the texture and color, etc. I would also like to introduce a new function under Texture Editor, which is Color Switch. The purpose of it is to recognize any color of your image, and you are able to pick one of them and to change it. And now I will work on the graphic and open Texture Editor. And when I select the graphic, I can turn on Color Switch and type the numbers like 3, and then you will see the color boxes at the bottom. When you select them, they will be highlighted in the preview window, and you can directly click those color boxes and change the color and preview it in the 2D and also the 3D window. We can not only focus on one colorway, but also the further colorways. Like the second colorway, we can also work on the graphic and open the texture editor and use Color Switch for help to do further design and development. We can try various combinations of the color, and if we are satisfied with it, we can just click the Apply and Close button. We can also utilize the new functions, Color Switch on the fabric texture. By opening the texture editor, we can also turn on Color Switch and then select the numbers that we would like to switch. After that, we can select the color box and then change the color according to our needs. And do further adjustment like blurring the edge to make it become more natural. We believe the new functions, Color Switch, will bring a new experience for the users and also streamline their workflow, so they don't need to go back and forth again between CLO and other 2D software for doing the photos and image editing. And then we will talk about the user interface improvement. From 7.0 version, the library structures has been changed to a tree structure for usability. Before 7.0, you could select a particular favorite folder in the library window and then to click the subfolder directly in the bottom window. Starting from 7.0, you can see there is a expand icon next to your folder, and then when you open it, you can see the subfolder and the details there with a tree structure, and you can access those subfolders directly from the library, and this will be a more convenient way and help you to access those folders immediately. If you like to hide the subfolder, you just need to click the little triangle again, and then the subfolder will be hidden. Meanwhile, I'd like to share an improvement about the scenes. So now you can see the tree layout under the scene of the object browser. In this update, we can easily identify and change the settings from the property editor of the patterns, sewing lines, 3D forms, materials, and environment. So let us go through the 2D pattern thread. You will see there is a list of all patterns. By clicking on the name, the selected pattern will be highlighted on the both 3D and 2D windows. The pattern details and the properties will be also shown at the below from Property Editor, and you can make any changing easily. And for the internal lines, they are also listed in the scene tree, so you can access them under its corresponding pattern. For the materials, we can have a quick access to the zippers, like selecting the tape and slider individually, and also buttons, buttonhole, graphic, and top stitching and puckering are covered in the materials. For some case, like choosing the tiny details like the top stitch, we can also use by this way to select them and check them in the 2D window and do further editing. And now, we can move to the environment options. Here you can quickly access the simulation properties and handy change the 3D lighting, like the intensity and its color. We also make the render properties changing become an easier way, so you can now change the settings without opening the render window. And you can just change it in the property editor. So you will be able to edit the camera setting, the light, as well as the image, video, and the render properties. In conclusion, with the scene tree update and interface improvement, we hope the software layout can become more user-friendly. At the same time, our users can utilize multi-features in one place for streamlining their workflow. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce the improvement while loading the garment files, so we can choose about maintain the current avatar size and pose, or open size and pose from the garment file from 7.0, which makes things being clearer than before. Finally, we would like to introduce the CLO community. The official CLO server has been opened on Discord, which is a community platform. On the CLO official server, you can receive various CLO news like the materials and tips, and you can also talk freely with other CLO users. Discord can be accessed through a PC web browser or mobile apps. From now on, we will share a QR code that allows users to access the Discord CLO official server. Please take out your mobile phone and scan the QR code and join the server. For those who miss it, I will leave a separate invitation link in the featured videos. The screen you can see now is the first screen when you first access to Discord. There are several channels on the left-hand side, and they include the rules and the announcement. The purpose is to build up a good community culture. After reading those channels carefully, you can click the Save Rules channel and check the blue dot reaction at the bottom to open new channels. The newly opened channels are the channels you will mainly be active in. Please check Read Me First channel for the purpose of each channels. We look forward to meeting you guys around the world through this official Discord closed server and use it as a meaningful place to share valuable information with each other. Thank you for joining this webinar, and we hope you to enjoy with these new functions and cloud journey.